It doesn't take a genius to see that our relationships on Earth today are completely dysfunctional. It also doesn't take a genius to see that if we don't fix this, we, the human race, are going to self-destruct. Today, I'm going to expose one of these patterns that causes the most damage between people, so that by being exposed to your conscious awareness, we will hopefully change it.
The time has come to demolish the self-concept of the defective doll. And the doll that was able to operate perfectly in accordance with its instructions. The time has come to learn how to love what is real. Have a good week.
We don't love each other. We love the idea of each other, and when we fall in love with the idea of each other, we relate to each other as objects, not as living beings. Or people, we relate to them as if they are an aspect or a player of our own pretend game. Most parents do not have children for children. They have children to meet their own needs. And when a child does not meet the parent's needs, especially the very need that the parent had the child for, it's a recipe for disaster. One of the most common dynamics that we see in the world today is that a parent, usually a mother, wants a child that will satiate her needs in the same way that a doll satiates the needs of a 4-year-old girl. The 4-year-old feels a sense of self-esteem in having the doll and dressing to match the doll and pretending to be needed by the doll and pretending they have a connection with the doll. This parent does not actually want a child that is a unique and individual person. This parent wants a doll that is animated and a doll that is a mini-me. They want this doll to act how they want it to act. They want it to be hungry when it's convenient for them. They want to be able to put it down when they want to do something else and have it shut its eyes and open them again only when they want to interact with it. They don't want the doll to need them when they don't want to be needed. For the father, usually this doll of a child they want is not about a feeling of sense of self-esteem and personal validation and caretaking anything. It is more about having a status symbol, like an animated trophy. It is about having something that through its successes validates him as a person. For this parent, the person that the child actually is, and the needs and feelings and wishes and preferences the child actually has, and how that child is different to the parent, will not be received well. It will be perceived as a threat to their own self-concept. It's going to be perceived as if the very existence of this child stands as an invalidation of the self of the parent. This child will also have needs that don't fit into the schedule of the parent. As a result, the parent will subconsciously reject this child. Avoid like a pet or a sentient toy that is put on the shelf. I highly suggest that to grasp the horror of this condition, you watch a Pixar movie called A Toy Story. Except for when you're watching this film, I want you to pretend that the two children in that story, Andy and Sid, are the parents of the toys which they keep. The horrific experience that so many of us have with our parents is the horror of being a toy. A toy for our parents' gratification.
Shut up. In a couple of days, everything will be just the way it was. They'll see. They'll see. I'm still Andy's favorite toy.
I was on top of the world living high, right in my pocket. I was living the life, things were just the way they should be. Went from out of the sky like a bomb, comes some little punk in a rocket.
I want you to pretend that the two children in that story, Andy and Sid, are the parents of the toys which they keep. The horrific experience that so many of us have with our parents is the horror of being a toy. A toy for our parents' gratification, or lack thereof. We are either the toy that is born and lives and dies on the shelf, never being valued, or we are the toy that looks so good to a child when it's on the shelf, but the minute they unwrap it, there's a massive disappointment and a rejection, and so we're put on the shelf. Or we are the person who is loved and adored for a certain period of time before someone loses interest, or we are replaced by a better toy, another sibling. If we are the toy that was perceived to be defective because we could not control our animation to perfectly fit in with what our parents wanted, then we are the one that is rejected and put on the shelf, often at an age where we could not actually preoccupy ourselves. I want you to imagine that somebody really wants a horse figurine, but they go out and they buy a horse. This is a setup, it's a recipe for self-hate. Why? Because they're going to hate the manure. They're going to hate how big the horse is. They're going to hate that they have to exercise it, hate that they have to groom it. Inevitably, what they're going to be doing is leaving this horse by itself, completely neglected, until they eventually, hopefully, give the horse away.
Demolish the self-concept of the defective doll. And the doll that was able to operate perfectly in accordance with its instructions. The time has